For more than 6 years, investigators searched rivers, coastlines, forests, and wasteland across East Cork. They searched everywhere. They even searched the house. Twice. The answer was beneath the concrete floor. Tina Satchwell had never left. And the man who reported her missing had known that from the very beginning. This is not a cold case. This is something more disturbing than that. This is the story of what happens when the truth is buried, literally, and how close it came to staying buried forever. Before we go to the house, you need to know who Tina Satchwell was. Because this case only makes sense when you understand exactly what was taken. Tina Dingivan was born in Fermoy, County Cork, in 1972. She grew up as one of 7 children, a close family, rooted in a market town on the banks of the River Blackwater. As a teenager she moved to England, where she met a local man named Richard Satchwell. He was nearly 6 years older than her. They married young and eventually returned to County Cork. She was, by all accounts, a woman full of personality. Petite, glamorous, a sharp eye for fashion. But the thing people mentioned most when they talked about Tina was her love of animals. 2 dogs, Heidi and Ruby. A parrot named Valentine. People who knew her said the animals were everything to her. Around 18 months before she disappeared, the couple sold their home and moved to a 3-story terraced house on Grattan Street in Yuffle, a historic seaside town on the Cork coast, where the Blackwater River meets the Celtic Sea. A new home. A new chapter. What was happening inside that home, behind closed doors, nobody outside fully knew. Here is what we do know. When Tina vanished in March 2017, the people who loved her most said immediately that something was wrong. She would never leave her dogs. She would never leave without a word. She had not been in contact with a single member of her family. Her sister Teresa, her brothers, her nieces, none of them believed the story they were being told. They were right not to believe it. And it would take years, more years than anyone should accept, to prove why. The morning of the 20th of March, 2017 is the center of this entire story. Everything before it is context. Everything after it is consequence. According to Richard Satchwell, here is what happened that morning. He said he brought his wife tea and toast in bed at around 10 o'clock. She was alive. She asked him to drive to the Aldi supermarket in Dungavan, approximately 40 minutes away, to pick up some shopping. He said this was normal. He thought nothing of it. He left. 2 hours later, he returned. His wife was gone. Her mobile phone was on the kitchen counter. Her keys were on the ground. Her dogs were still in the house. Her parrot was still in the house. 2 suitcases were missing, he said. And approximately €26,000 in cash savings, he claimed, had also gone. He did not call the Gardaí that day. He did not call them the next day, or the day after that. For full days passed before Richard Satchwell reported his wife as a missing person. For days. When asked later why, he said he assumed she had left him. He thought she would come back on her own. He worried that involving the police might embarrass her. But here is a detail that was not made public until years later, when investigators finally analyzed all of the evidence they had collected. On the same day he filed that missing person report, the 24th of March, 2017, a laptop taken from the Satchwell home was used to search for a single word, quicklime. Quicklime is a substance used to accelerate the decomposition of human remains. It also suppresses odor. Seconds after that search, a YouTube video titled, "Quicklime and Water Reaction," was viewed. Twice. The laptop had been seized by Gardaí in June 2017. It was not fully analyzed for a number of years. That detail, sitting in seized evidence, unexamined, is one of the threads this story keeps pulling. Because when you pull it, the whole thing begins to unravel. There is one more detail from that final morning. At 10:42 a.m., in very close proximity to what investigators believe was the time of the killing, An email was sent from Richard Satchwell's account to the International Monkey Organization, a group from which the couple had been trying to purchase 2 animals. The email read, "I've put an awful lot of work into this and my wife is saying she will leave me over this." Tina Satchwell was dead before that email was sent. What happened between the time he brought her tea and toast and the time he drove away that morning is the question that sat at the center of a criminal trial 8 years later. But even before we get to the answer, we need to understand something. While that question remained unanswered, Richard Satchwell went on television. On the 24th of March, 2017, Richard Satchwell walked into a Garda station and reported his wife missing. His story was straightforward. Tina had been unhappy. She had taken their savings, packed 2 suitcases, and left. She was, he believed, alive. She had left to find herself. The investigation that followed was treated from the outset as a missing person case. Searches began immediately. The Irish Coast Guard searched Yuffle Harbour at low tide. The Garda Water Unit searched the shoreline. The Garda Divisional Search Team searched areas of wasteland in the town. Nothing was found. 3 months after the disappearance, in June 2017, investigators conducted a technical and forensic examination of the Satchwell home on Grattan Street. They went inside. They looked around. They observed unfinished home improvement work throughout the property. They noted a new red brick wall at the side of the stairs. They photographed it. They seized a laptop. And then they left. They did not drill into the floor. They did not bring a cadaver dog. The wall beside the stairs was photographed and noted, and nothing more was done about it. Not yet. Meanwhile, Richard Satchwell began to give interviews. He appeared on RTE's Prime Time, Ireland's flagship current affairs program. He appeared on TV3's Ireland AM. He spoke to the Yuffle community radio station, CRY 104 FM. He gave interviews to national print outlets, though he later said he preferred television, because in broadcast, he said, his words could be heard directly, without anyone twisting them. He was articulate. He was consistent. He was emotional. He said he believed Tina was alive. He said he had never laid a finger on her. He described her dogs missing her. He described the parrot missing her. He appealed for anyone with information to come forward. He said if she walked back through the door, he would put his arms around her and collapse on the floor with relief. He said he was not angry with her. He was just disappointed. An RT Prime Time camera crew came to the house. Reporter Barry Cummins filmed inside. He walked through the rooms. He filmed the dogs. He filmed Valentine the parrot. He sat and spoke with Richard Satchwell about his missing wife. Barry Cummins later wrote about that day with evident pain. He said he had stood less than 10 feet from where Tina Satchwell's body was buried. He had no idea. In March 2018, more than a year after Tina's disappearance, investigators mounted a major search operation in Mitchellswood near Castlemartyr, roughly 20 minutes from Yuffle. A tip from a member of the public claimed a blonde woman matching Tina's description had been seen entering the woods with another person on the night she disappeared, and that the other person had later left the woods alone. A no-fly zone was established. Approximately 40 acres of woodland were searched. Tina Satchwell was not found. Because Tina Satchwell had never been to those woods. Richard Satchwell did not move away from Grattan Street. He stayed. Through 2018. Through 2019. Through 2020. He was still in the house the following year. And the year after that. He built a substantial extension at the back of the property in the years after Tina disappeared, new construction, new walls, new concrete, while investigators continued to classify the case as a missing person inquiry. He was extending the home where he had buried his wife. And he was doing it while the investigation was open. The case was not going nowhere. Investigators were working it. But there is one question that would become central to the post-conviction review, one thread that, when examined later, raised serious concern. Richard Satchwell's story rested on two pillars. 1. Tina had walked out with €26,000 in cash savings. 2. She had packed 2 suitcases and taken them with her. A forensic accountant examined the couple's finances. Satchwell himself had called Gardaí 2 months after reporting Tina missing, claiming he'd spotted one of her suitcases at a clothes bank in Yuffle. Forensic tests were carried out on it. No link to Tina was found. The money couldn't be verified. The suitcases weren't hers. The departure, the savings, the packed bags, none of it existed outside his account of it. No trail. No transaction. No trace of a woman who had decided to leave. Because she hadn't left. In August 2021, something shifted. Superintendent Anne-Marie Toomey was appointed as the new senior investigation officer. Detective Garda David Kelleher was brought in and began going through the entire investigation file from the beginning, line by line, document by document, photograph by photograph. And Superintendent Toomey brought in someone whose name would become critical to what happened next. Her name was Dr. Niamh McCullough. She was a forensic archaeologist. And she had spent her career studying exactly this kind of case. Dr. Niamh McCullough did not go to the house first. She went to the file. She reviewed the investigation documents. She studied the crime scene photographs from 2017. She examined the images of the Satchwell home, the unfinished home improvement work, the new red brick wall beside the stairs, the freshly laid concrete that had been photographed, noted, and left untouched. She found her answer in those photographs. And it had been sitting in the file for 4 years. Her research into concealment homicide cases had established consistent patterns. A perpetrator constructs a story about the victim leaving voluntarily, files a false missing persons report, and conceals the body close to home. Her data showed that in the majority of such cases, female victims are found within 1 kilometer of where they lived. Every element of the Tina Satchwell file matched those patterns precisely. Dr. McCullough made a formal recommendation. The Grattan Street house required an invasive forensic search, specifically the plasterboard, the stairs, and the ground floor of the sitting room. And she added one more requirement: a cadaver dog. The recommendation was accepted. In October 2023, the investigation was officially reclassified as a murder case. The target was 3 Grattan Street, Yuffle. And the clock was about to run out on years of lies he thought he'd buried deep enough to keep. The evening of the 10th of October, 2023. Shortly after 5 o'clock, detectives in Yuffle arrested a man in his 50s on suspicion of murder. He was taken to Cobb Garda Station. His name was Richard Satchwell. At the same moment, a forensic team arrived at Grattan Street. What followed was unlike anything the residents of that quiet East Cork town had seen before. Scenes of crime. Examiners in white forensic suits carried chainsaws, kango hammers, jackhammers, shovels, and pickaxes through the front door. 2 minadiggers arrived. A vegetation shredder. A refuse skip was placed on the road outside. Neighbors gathered. The sound of chainsaws carried in the coastal air. Inside the house, a cadaver dog named Fern was put to work. Fern had been trained to detect the chemical signatures produced by decomposing human remains. Her handler led her methodically through the property, beginning at the top floor and working downward. Room by room. Floor by floor. She was calm through the upper floors. When she reached the area beneath the stairs in the ground floor sitting room, she became, as described in court, very active. The team moved in immediately. Powerful lighting was set up in the confined cubby hole beneath the staircase. A builder named James McNamara, brought in from Limerick as part of the specialist excavation team, took a kango hammer into that space and began to break through the floor. Detective Garda Brian Barry was standing right there when it happened. He later described what he saw. The concrete in that section of the floor was not the same as the concrete around it. It was visibly different in color, in composition. It was a new appall, he said. Different from everything surrounding it. In his words, it was very suspicious and unusual. The builders broke through and began to dig. They were not disturbing old, untouched earth. The soil had been worked before, moved before, packed back down deliberately. At 64 centimeters below the surface, just over 2 feet down, they stopped. Black plastic sheeting. Multiple layers. Wrapped carefully around something beneath. The excavation halted. The scene was preserved. Assistant State Pathologist Dr. Margot Bolster arrived at the property. Forensic anthropologist Dr. Laureen Buckley followed. Their examination confirmed what Fern had already known. The remains were human. Before the remains were removed, before the hearse arrived on Grattan Street, before the forensic packages were loaded and driven away, the local parish priest, Father Bill Birmingham, came to the house. He said prayers for the dead. Identification was confirmed through dental records at Cork City Morgue. The woman beneath the stairs was Tina Satchwell. She had been buried there, wrapped in black plastic, beneath a meter of concrete and earth. Through all of it, every appeal, every search, every anniversary. Her older sister Teresa wrote on Facebook, "R.I.P. to my beautiful sister Tina. You can rest now, love. We found you. I love and miss you. You are now with Mum. Fly high, my beautiful angel." On the morning of the 12th of October, 2023, as Gardaí was still completing the removal of Tina's remains, Richard Satchwell, released from custody the previous day after his initial detention, was found sitting at a bus shelter in Yuffle. He was arrested again. And this time, when he sat down across from investigators, the story he had told the whole world through all those years could no longer stand. It was lunchtime on the 12th of October, 2023. Gardaí sat down with Richard Satchwell in an interview room at Cobb Garda Station and told him they were there to listen to whatever he wanted to say. He took off his glasses. He sobbed. And he began to tell a different story. The account he now offered, which he maintained through to his trial, was this: on the morning of the 20th of March, 2017, Tina had come at him with a chisel. He said she flew at him. A struggle followed. To protect himself, he said, he used a dressing gown belt to hold her away from him. He said she went limp. And then she died. He said he panicked. He did not call an ambulance. He did not call the Gardaí. He did not call anyone in her family. He did not call anyone at all. Instead, he put her body on the couch. Then, worried about their 2 dogs disturbing her, he moved her to a disused, unplugged chest freezer in the shed at the back of the property. He kept her there for 6 days. On the 26th of March, 2017, while the investigation into his wife's disappearance was already underway, Richard Satchwell buried her beneath the floor under the stairs. He dug down nearly a meter. He wrapped her body in black plastic sheeting. He poured new concrete over the site. He said the work was rough. Difficult for one man alone. He was not a builder. But he was careful enough. And then he picked up his phone and started calling journalists. There is one detail from the discovery of Tina's remains that says more about Richard Satchwell than almost anything else. When her skeletal remains were recovered, she was wearing her pajamas and her dressing gown. In the pocket of that dressing gown was her purse, containing several forms of personal identification. She had not packed 2 suitcases. She had not taken €26,000. She had not walked out of the house that morning. She had never even gotten dressed. And there is one more detail. In the years after Tina's disappearance, Richard Satchwell cremated one of her beloved dogs, one of the 2 animals she had been devoted to her entire adult life, while her body lay buried in concrete less than 30 feet away. He had given television interviews about how much those dogs missed her. Richard Satchwell was charged with the murder of Tina Satchwell at 3 Grattan Street, Yuffle, between the 19th and 20th of March, 2017. He pleaded not guilty. His defense successfully argued that the intense media publicity surrounding the case, much of it generated by Satchwell's own public appearances over 6 years, made a fair trial in Cork County impossible. The trial was moved to the Central Criminal Court in Dublin. It opened at the end of April 2025. It lasted almost 5 weeks. The jury heard from approximately 50 witnesses. The prosecution described Richard Satchwell as an arch manipulator. They built a timeline from phone records, financial records, the quicklime laptop search, the email sent at 10:42 on the morning of the killing, the structural changes to the property, the expert analysis of concealment homicide research, and the video recordings of Satchwell's police interviews, years of consistent denial, and then the changed account he gave in October 2023 once the remains were found. The defense acknowledged that Satchwell had disposed of his wife's body. Their argument turned on a different question: what was the nature of what happened that morning? They argued there was no direct physical evidence proving Satchwell had intended to kill or cause serious injury. Because he had buried Tina beneath concrete for that length of time, the condition of her remains was severely compromised. The state pathologist confirmed there were no fractures found on the skull or on any other bones. No organs remained. Very little soft tissue survived. The defense called this a significant gap in the prosecution case, a lacuna, and applied to have the murder charge reduced to manslaughter. Mr. Justice Paul McDermott rejected that application. He directed the jury that they were entitled to weigh the full picture: the deliberate concealment, the black plastic sheeting, the meter of concrete, the false missing person report, the years of media appearances, the quicklime searches, the chest freezer. The jury was entitled to consider all of this, the judge said, as evidence of what he described as a degree of malevolence and a total focus on protecting himself against discovery. The jury deliberated for 9 hours and 28 minutes. On the 30th of May, 2025, they returned a unanimous verdict. Richard Satchwell was guilty of murder. In the courtroom, members of Tina's family and several jurors wept. On the 4th of June, 2025, victim impact statements were read to the court. The family used Tina's maiden name throughout, Tina Dingivan, as she had always been to the people who loved her. Her niece Sarah Howard stood and said she could not comprehend how someone who had claimed to love Tina could do something so cruel. She said Tina had been murdered by someone who claimed to love her. Richard Satchwell, 58 years old, was sentenced to life in prison. He has lodged an appeal. The conviction did not end the reckoning with this case. If anything, it deepened it. Because when you lay out what was missed, what remains unanswered, what was sitting in seized evidence for years, the discomfort does not go away with the verdict. It sharpens. June 2017. Investigators enter the house. They observe a new red brick wall beside the stairs. They observe what appears to be recent building work. They take photographs. They take a laptop. They leave. The laptop contains a quicklime search carried out on the day Satchwell filed his missing person report. That laptop was not fully analyzed for a number of years. When it eventually was, the search was there. It had always been there. The structural changes to the house, photographed in 2017, sitting in the investigation file, were later identified by Dr. Niamh McCullough as a clear red flag, consistent with patterns she had documented across multiple concealment homicide cases. That analysis came in 2021. For years after the photographs were taken. The cadaver dog, Fern. She became very active the moment she reached that spot beneath the staircase. She found, in hours, what years of other searching had not. In the aftermath of the conviction, then Garda Commissioner Drew Harris publicly acknowledged that in hindsight, it seemed pretty obvious where Tina's body had been buried. A formal review into the Garda Síochána's handling of the investigation was announced. A specific question was raised: should a cadaver dog have been used in 2017? That review is ongoing. The appeal is pending. What is not in dispute is this: an RT prime-time camera crew filmed inside the house. Barry Cummins, the reporter, stood in those rooms and spoke with Richard Satchwell about his missing wife. He later wrote about that day, about learning, years later, that he had been standing less than 10 feet from where Tina lay buried. That image, a journalist conducting an interview while a murdered woman lies in concrete beneath the floor, is not sensationalism. It is the factual summary of what Richard Satchwell built, a performance so sustained, so public, and so apparently convincing that it held for years. He called for her return on national television. He described her dogs missing her. He said he would collapse with relief if she walked back in. And beneath the floor, through all of it, Tina lay hidden in the earth, in the house she had never left. The conviction of Richard Satchwell did not answer every question this case raised. A formal review of the Garda Síochána's handling of the investigation was announced after the verdict. The former Garda commissioner himself said that in hindsight, it seemed pretty obvious where Tina's body had been buried. That review is ongoing. Richard Satchwell's appeal is pending. What is not in dispute is that a forensic archaeologist reviewed photographs taken in 2017, identified structural changes to the Grattan Street house as a red flag, recommended a cadaver dog and an invasive search, and was proved right within hours of that search beginning. The photographs had been in the file for 4 years before that recommendation was made. None of that erases what was ultimately done right. Detective Garda David Kelleher spent years going through the file, line by line. Superintendent Anne-Marie Toomey brought the focus and the expertise the investigation needed. Dr. McCullough read the evidence and named what it meant. And Fern, a cadaver dog, found in hours what 6 years of other searching had not. They found her. She is at rest. At her sentencing, Tina's niece Sarah Howard stood outside the Central Criminal Court in Dublin and said 4 words that her family had waited more than 8 years to say. We finally have justice for Tina. Tina Satchwell was 44 years old. She grew up in Fermoy as Tina Dingivan, one of 7 children, surrounded by people who loved her. She had 2 dogs she adored and a parrot named Valentine. She loved fashion. She loved animals. She loved her family. Her absence, in the words of those who knew her, leaves a shape in the world that nothing else can fill. She vanished from her own home. The truth was hidden there for years. Now, at last, it has been told.